Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the All Sports Betting Podcast, Cricket World Cup 2019. We're on to day number 3, where we are going to preview Sri Lanka against New Zealand in this particular edition. I'm Steve Wiss. I'm joined by Kevin Harper. And, at the time of recording, it's a pretty happy All Sports Betting Podcast because on the first day of action, Ben Stokes delivers a 9-1 winner for us there. Kev, I have to say, well done on that excellent top bat pick.
Cheers, Steve. Yeah, all went to plan. Obviously, there's always a little bit of, not luck, but good fortune involved, isn't there? You need certain players out at certain times without, going on. I mean, obviously, if Roy or Root had gone on and made their 50s into 80s or 90s, we were probably struggling, but they didn't. But that was all part of the plan, wasn't it? We said that Rabada and Geedy, Tahir can all take wickets. They did. They all shot one out each. But they didn't get Ben Stokes out.
No, they didn't. So great start to the tournament there with a 9-1 winner. On to game number 3 in the tournament then. Comes from Cardiff, Sophia Gardens, Sri Lanka against New Zealand. We'll start with a pitch report here because this is it's a bit of an unusual ground. It's a bit quirky with its dimensions and size. How would you describe Sophia Gardens, Kev?
Yeah, very quirky, isn't it? A little bit like the Oval, really. Very short straight, very wide square. It's kind of a rectangle, really, isn't it? I mean, New Zealand should be all right here, shouldn't they, in many ways, because it kind of resembles when they play their T20 games on rugby grounds. It's very much like that, isn't it? Mishits will go for 6 straight. They'll more often than not end up in the river behind the ground. But square at the boundary, you've got to give it a right old tonk to get it anywhere near the boundary, let alone over it. So, from that point of view, bowlers can sort of make their plans, can't they? You're probably going to see a lot more shorter balls here than fuller balls. But I mean, Cardiff's been a regular venue on the international scene for a long time now, hasn't it? It's had Ashes tests, hosted Champions Trophies matches. These two actually played here in the last Champions Trophy. So teams know all about this place now. What they might not know, though, Steve, to be fair, is usually this ground is kind of seen as a slow, low, turgid wicket, isn't it? I think a lot of that really is because the place has got a permanent rain cloud over it, hasn't it? But this summer, not so, actually. Glamorgan have already belted 330-odd here in the 50-over competition against Surrey. And that was a decent Surrey attack that day. So that was all right. And then I don't pay too much attention to the warm-up matches, but I did actually watch the India-Bangladesh one on Tuesday just to get a feel of where they were playing on the square. And India put up 360 in that game. And for much of the run chase, Bangladesh were going at run a ball. Not much turn, not much seam movement. So much like in keeping with everything else that we've said about this tournament, I'm expecting a decent enough batting track here.
Yeah, it's not a very English type of ground, this one, I have to say. Like you said, very much a rectangle. 60 yards and 60 metres and 64 metres down the ground. But for example, if you're going to hit to cow corner, it's as big as 84 metres. So if the big difference there, directly straight to just slightly on an angle. And it's funny you should mention the conditions down there in Wales. I follow a few golf clubs in that area, and they've been on Twitter about how dry it is and how they really need some rain desperately. I mean, I was shocked because up in my way, it's been very wet recently. In fact, perfect conditions really for growing. They've had good bits of sun as well, but obviously Wales has had a bit of a drought, so it might be different sort of conditions compared to this slow, low pitch that they were expecting. So watch out for potentially more runs than usual here at Sophia Gardens. Let's talk about the teams. And for those that have listened to the Outright Preview podcast, that you're not very keen on Sri Lanka at the moment. We'll come to them later. But New Zealand, they're effectively 1-4 favourites to win this game. I presume you expect them to prevail, but how convincingly will they get the job done?
Yeah, they should get it done really convincingly, shouldn't they? My only concern is, and again, I don't read a lot. I can't stress enough, I don't read too much into these warm-up games. But when West Indies score 420 against New Zealand, you have to stand up and take notice. That's the kind of total that a bowling attack might think, oh, shit, that's come at the wrong time. That was Tuesday as well, same day as that India game, 4 days before this game. So they've not had an awful lot of time to prepare. anything different, have they? So that would be my only concerns. I still expect New Zealand to win the game. These two played ODI series in New Zealand right at the start of the year, and I mean, Sri Lanka didn't even get close. In fact, in one of the games, Pereira hit 140 off about 56 balls, something daft like that, in one of these tiny New Zealand grounds, and they still lost by 30 or 40. So, yeah, I expect it to be relatively comfortable. I do have my reservations about that bowling attack. I'd like to see it in action before I back it again, though.
Trent Boult and Southey are very important in this bowling attack, aren't they? I think one of them didn't actually play against against West Indies off the top of my head.
But, yeah, Southey didn't play, which is another reason why I take them with a pinch of salt. But if Matt Henry's the first change, he's just gone for 2 a ball from 9 overs, hasn't he? So
horrendous figures, weren't they, for Henry?
Yeah,
dear me. But fair to say that the West Indies, certainly Henry, hoovered up, didn't they, against him? But are they at full strength here? There's no injury doubts that we know of, is there?
Full strength physically. Quite what state they're in mentally after West Indies got after him, I'm not sure. But yeah, not heard any injury doubts from New Zealand's point of view.
Now we move to Sri Lanka again, and they were rather slagged off in the Outright podcast from our point of view here. But what are you expecting from them in this game? How are they going to line up, do you think?
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? They're not a settled side at all. They changed their captain just before the tournament. I mean, if you've been interested in cricket for 4 years and you're English, you'll know exactly what Sri Lanka are doing here, because England did exactly the same thing before we went into the World Cup 4 years ago, didn't we? Changed the captain, changed style of play, changed everything, went back to old people. They're outdated with their cricket. They don't have the power hitters to play the modern game anyway. They rely on spinners. They haven't got no decent spinners. You know, and it shows, doesn't it? I mean, really and truly, Lasith Malinga is, you know, on his last legs, but they've got to keep churning him out because there's no one else. And they've discarded Angelo Matthews and brought him back more times than I put the wheelie bins out and bring them back up the driveway. There's just nobody else. It's just an admission of defeat almost before they've started. You don't know how they're going to line up. The one thing that you can say is they do actually have a couple of talented batsmen. I think they showed that when they were last over here, was it 2 summers ago? Kusal Mendes, Kusal Pereira in particular, 2 really good ones. But there's so much pressure on these two that, you know, just justifying that is difficult. I really don't think they're a good side.
Yeah, I mean, you tipped them to finish bottom of the table in the Outright podcast at 4-1. 4-1. I don't know if that price is still available, but get on it before this one, because if it does, you know, if they do get beaten convincingly behind New Zealand, it's not going to bode very well for Sri Lanka. Now, you've got 2 bets for this game, and one of them you're taking over 6s. I was a little bit surprised by this because off the top of my head, there's not that many power hitters in these 2 teams. You know, I think of like Kane Williamson and Angelo Matthews, things like that. They're more stroke players. But the 6s line is only 8.5. I'm guessing, I mean, you've kind of been tempted in there, Kev, or have you got some other extra reasons that you fancy 6s in this game?
Yeah, the lowness of the line, for one. A lot of these classy players that we talk about, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, Virat Kohli, the reason why they're so classy is because they hit down the ground so well, don't they? So although Williamson isn't a natural 6-hitter, if there's a ball pitched up, he's quite capable of bashing it back over the bowler's head, and he doesn't need to swing the bat 100 miles an hour to hit it 60 yards, does he? I mean, you know, we can all do that. And you know, there are still some big hitters in this game. You know, the likes of Martin Guptill, Colin Munro, if indeed he is Guptill's opening partner, Jimmy Neesham down the order for New Zealand. And then there's 1 or 2 Sri Lankans that can give it a bit of Reggie Biffington as well. Pereira, who I've just mentioned. I'm going to come on to another one in a minute. Angelo Matthews. So to get to an 8.5 line, you don't really need everyone to go conkers deep, do you? You know, you're just looking for 1 or 2 to come off and, you know, hit 3 each or whatever, and then just a couple. I mean, even a top edge, and it's just going to fly for 6 over the keeper's head here. So there's plenty of mileage in that line. As I said, India and Bangladesh in the warm-up game the other day, and that wasn't bang in the middle of the square, but it weren't too far off of it. And they combined for 4 sixes for Bangladesh, 13 sixes for India, so 17 sixes in that game. So they doubled this total. You wouldn't say that either of them are massive hitters either, would you? So I think there's enough mileage to get 9 sixes.
And where's that at? What price and what bookmaker?
That is at BetVictor, and it is 4 to 5.
Yeah, like I said, worth mentioning that the down the ground is the shortest boundary here at this ground significantly. So, you would expect that quite a majority of sixes to be in that area of the field. So
and the other thing to mention on that point, Steve, is they have this electronic sponsor board for these things, don't they? In between the fluffy boundary thing and what we would describe as the end of the sort of outfield. So that's actually going to chop off another 2 or 3 meters from all of the yardages that we know are normally played at. So you're probably not even looking at 60 meters for some of these.
Yeah, you're probably looking because there'll be wind assisted on one direction, I think. You might only have to hit like 54, 55 meters to hit for a 6 down the ground at one end, which is, well, it's just a chip shot, really, isn't it? Let's be brutally honest with you. So we're going to go into the top batsman market because you've gone with a Sri Lankan batsman at a big price that I've never actually heard of in my life, I've got to be honest. And his name is Isuru Udana, and he's a big price to top score in this innings. So tell us a bit more about him.
He is. I mean, the doubt is whether he plays or not. Like I said a minute ago, I mean, you can come up with any combination of Sri Lanka's 11 and you're going to get it right or you're going to get it wrong, but you've got much chance getting the 6 lottery numbers. But Sri Lanka went to South Africa around about March time for a tour, and this fella got picked for the T20s, and Sri Lanka lost the T20s quite comfortably. But I noticed in Centurion, he went in when they were like nothing for 6. And he just went mental. He hit a decent South Africa attack. It didn't have Rabada. It had everyone else that played against England. 84 or 46 balls. And he was hitting 6s. It's like they were going out of fashion. He was hitting boundaries as well. And I thought, Christ, that was a decent effort. But, was that just a one-off with the pressure off sort of thing? So a couple of days later, they went to Johannesburg, which admittedly is a small ground. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. So is this straight down the ground. And he clobbered another 36. So in a game where Trent Boult could run havoc and take out this Sri Lanka top order, I think it might be worth a chance on this fella. I mean, he can clearly swing a bat, and it's clearly judging. But I mean, he's 35 to 1 at Betfair. It's clearly a speculative shot, and obviously, if someone in that top 6 from Sri Lanka does get away, then we've no chance of winning. But there's no guarantees that they will. And if they don't, and he comes in and has a bit of fun, there could be a top score for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the price obviously dictates the chances. And, 35 to 1 is, you don't expect that sort of bet to win that often, but it's definitely a bit of value. Also, Paddy Power offering 35 to 1 on him, I've noticed. But, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting match. I think Sri Lanka, the actual 11 could be anything by the sounds of it as well. In terms of New Zealand top batsmen, you can't really look beyond the top 4 in the market, can you?
No. I mean, how many wickets are Sri Lanka really going to take with the new ball? Not very many. Any that they do take, you probably think that New Zealand are going to gift them. You'd think one of Guptill or Williamson would go big, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. You certainly would. So, okay, well, 2 picks for this game then. Over 8.5 sixes and Isuru Udana, top Sri Lankan batsman. Now, for those of you who know Kev, follow his website. Written previews for all of these Cricket World Cup matches are on his site. Kev's at sportsbets.com. And there's also a few offers that you've been promoting on the website, Kev. And there's one particular one you want to talk about on this podcast.
Yeah, because I mean, it probably comes into play here, doesn't it, actually? Boyle Sports, Steve, for all customers, are offering money back as a free bet up to 20 quid on your top batsman if your man makes 50 and doesn't top score. I'm assuming they've still got money left after they applied this to the England-South Africa game where everyone scored 50 apart from, you know, one or two. So they've already paid out 6 free bets, haven't they? You know, he's the guy that I've just tipped up is 25 to 1 at Boyle Sports. Grant you, it's not 35 to 1, but if you want a bit of a safety net, still 25 to 1, still a decent price. He's still likely to give you a run for your money. And if he does get 50 and one of the top players gets away, then you know you're going to get your money back. I wouldn't have thought you're going to have much more than 20 quid on a 25 to 1 shot, are you? So you get your money back as a free bet. We're going to tip up plenty of top bats as we go along in this tournament, aren't we? So you'll get ample chance to use your free bet if you get your money back. So there's an image and a link to use, which will be on my preview for this game when it goes live, but it's already on the preview for the for the West Indies Pakistan game, if you can't wait until my preview for this one goes live. Worth a chance. As I say, you don't need to sign up to be a new account or anything like that, but if you haven't got a Boyle Sports account, you can sign up using that link and just take advantage of what looks a really good offer.
Yeah, if you fancy someone to get a 50, then effectively you're kind of taking just a punt on. You'll get your money back with a free bet if he does get that mark. But if he went big, then there's every chance he could top score anyway. So nice little safety net. I'm sure their prices will be a little bit shorter, but not significantly. I mean, I'm looking down the list now. They are top price on a few batsmen still, or joint top price. So Boyle Sports, take a listen at that. Okay, well, we'll be back for the next match of the day on Saturday. That's Australia against Afghanistan. And there's a bit from me particularly now. It's goodbye, and we'll see you very soon.
Absolutely, Steve. All the best.